Alright, you guys, we are looking at convection currents and plate movement. This is the laboratory at the end of E3.3b, which was explain why tectonic plates move using the concept of heat flowing through mantle convection, coupled with the cooling and sinking of aging ocean plates that result from their increased density. So we are going to take an actual look at convection currents, which, remember you guys, is just warm things rising, they cool off, and then they fall, because as things warm they become less dense because particles are moving faster, and they fall then as they are cooler because particles are moving slower, so the objects are more dense. So it says here, please notice here, it says South America and Africa are drifting slowly apart. What powerful force could be moving these two plates? So in this investigation you will observe the movement of convection currents and determine how convection currents in Earth's mantle could move tectonic plates. The problem? How do convection currents in a fluid affect floating objects on the surface? So first, write a hypothesis to explain how convection currents affect floating objects. It's got to be if then because, you guys. So if, we got to give our problem here, then this, remember you're going to give your answer, and for the because portion, your reason for the answer. So if convection currents affect floating objects, then, and so on and so on. Okay? So take a few moments to write that hypothesis, and then we'll begin with the procedure. Okay, so to begin the procedure, and remember, this hypothesis has to be done at this point. It says use 2 overturned bread pans to support the glass lasagna pan. Fill the pan with about 4 centimeters of water. So as I go over here to my setup, you can see the bread pans. I have a pan of water sitting on those and a couple candles underneath that we will get to eventually. Back over here, direction 2. It says hold the eyedropper over the middle of the pan, squeeze several drops of food coloring into the water. Be careful not to touch or disturb the water with the eyedropper. I'm going to do that, and then you are going to write down your observations. Okay, so this is the pan. It's not being heated, so it's cooler water. I put the food coloring in, and you can see that it's just sort of sitting on the bottom in a blob. I'm going to try to give you a side view here if I can. There we go. It's a good side view. You can see that the food coloring is sitting on the bottom of the pan here for the most part. It entered up here and just came down as sitting on the bottom. So now I have lit a couple candles, and we need to observe what's going to happen here. Make sure you're thinking about what's happening. We are looking at a side view here. I'm going to take it to a top view. Can you also see what's going on from the top? If you remember what you saw from the side, what are you seeing now? Go ahead and write down your observations. We are on number 4 here. So next I'm going to blow out the candles, and I have cut out Well, if it looks like junk, Mr. A cut them out. If it looks good, then Mr. Fuzak cut them out. So it said, cut out with some sponges here. This can represent South America. This represents Africa. And these tacks are just in here so that these cut edges of the sponges aren't going to hang up on each other or anything like that. Just to give them a little bit of space for starters. But after you get those observations written down, it says place the sponges on top of the water in the center of the pan. Gently hold the sponges together until the water is still, then let go. I will get it still before I start recording, or as still as I can. And then I'll record again and show you what's going on. So this next piece here will be without heat. Alright, so this is our continents here with South America and Africa, and we can see that there's really no movement happening. The water's not completely still after I put them in there, so they are kind of rotating on us, but they're not moving apart. They're not trying to get closer together, they're not trying to move further apart. Go ahead and write your observations, and we'll move on to the next portion where I will reset these and add the heat. Alright here. So I have placed the sponges, I lit the candles, and they did start together. But if we can remember what was going on with the food coloring, we can visualize now that food coloring moving through the water perhaps. Because that food coloring was just really showing us how the water moved when we added the heat. In other words, a convection current. Go ahead and write your observations. This should be... I'm going to move over here, you guys. Number 10. And then I'll say a quick word about observe and analyze. Okay, for the last section here, it is the observe and analyze. And under record here, you can see that I've broken this box into two, because you'll have two drawings. It says draw diagrams, right here, to show how the food coloring and the sponges moved in cold water and in heated water. So cold on this side, heated over here. I would just draw a picture of our sponge setup, South America and Africa, and give me some arrows indicating any motion that may have been taking place in the cold water and then the heated water. Okay, so basically just drawing pictures showing me what was going on. 2, it's pretty self-explanatory. 1, down here under conclude, you may have to go back to your notes, but I'm not going to say too much more about that. This also, you should be good to go on. I'd like you to do some critical thinking to take care of that. 3, analyze. 4, interpret. And then skipping down to number 6, apply. And 7, all pretty self-explanatory. I want to touch on 5 here. It says identify controls. Did your experiment include controls? If so, what purpose did they serve here? All experiments have controls. Controls are things that never change. They are the same throughout all parts, or I'll say maybe trials, of an experiment. Okay? In other words, they provide consistency. So what were some of our controls? Okay? Once this is complete, this is probably something that you're going to want Mr. A and I to check. There's a few questions in here we really want to touch on. Okay? Good luck.